What's up, everybody? Welcome to... Turn off my fan. Welcome to day 6 of NoFap. The time is 8:36 p.m. I am very tired. I'm quite tired. I did a bit of work today, but also taking a week off of the gym definitely didn't do me any favors. I went to the gym this morning, and first thing that's part of the program, part of what I do, part of my workout routine is deadlifts. And I did the deadlifts wrong. Sometimes you have those off days where you just do the exercise wrong, and I did deadlifts wrong. It's one of the more common ones to get wrong too, but it's also one of the more painful ones to get. I mean, all of them are painful if you do it wrong, but some of them are innocent, right? Some exercises you could do wrong and you just don't work out the muscle you intended to work out. But with squats, with deadlifts, with bench press, if you do it wrong, it hurts. And I hurt myself. And it was my first exercise. Thankfully, no other exercise needed to engage my lower back, but I hurt my lower back. It wasn't like a full slipped disc or like any kind of like pinched nerve or anything like that, but I definitely feel sore and in a lot of pain. So I would probably call it muscle strain is what I have. So yeah. But thankfully I didn't, it's not like debilitating pain. It's kind of pain that I can deal with. So it's not too bad. It just means that I need to slow down when it comes to deadlifts. And it took me a long time, like a few years. I think a year or two before I was like, you know what, let's try doing deadlifts. Because I was afraid of this thing happening. I'm glad it's not super severe, but yeah, it sucks. But rest of the day, I uploaded some new ads that are going up tonight at midnight, and I did a bit of gig work. Delivering food and delivering groceries, so made a little bit of money there. I think one of the first things that I have to deal with right now is trusting God. Going back to the whole discussion with, basically trusting God with everything, and not thinking too far ahead, not making any huge plans, but just doing what I need to do today, and then submitting all of it and trusting God's plan with all of it. Today it was two things. It was obviously my back pain, and the other was kind of just working, because usually I don't do gig work. I used to in the past, but I like to focus a lot of my time doing my business and doing product research and customer research and all of that stuff. But I'm broke. I'm actually broke. I'm thankful that I get an allowance from my father from at the beginning of the month, but most of the stuff that I had to use that money for was basically what I owed from last month, plus all the bills that I have, including an annual bill. So my gym membership is annual, and I had to pay the annual bill this month, which is quite a large sum of money. So I'm broke. So I am doing gig work to basically sustain my business, sustain my sustain me with food and all these other things. And it's hard not to panic and make a plan, right? It's hard not to be like, it's hard not to be like, wonder what I'm going to do for the rest of the month. Maybe I should ask my dad for more money. I really don't want to do that. Should I continue gig work? Should I pause my ads? Should I stop my business? But all of that stuff, I'm kind of just taking day by day. It's not a bad thing to it's not a bad thing to be smart with the money, obviously. It's actually, you're supposed to be good with you're supposed to be responsible with the money. So I am kind of just taking it day by day, not overspending, but also not, not trying to worry so much about like, gee, what's gonna be my next meal? What's gonna be my, what's my next steps? How do I give myself some peace of mind with a plan? And it's kind of just trusting that God will deliver with what I'm doing. So gig work to make a bit of money to sustain me and my business. And then whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens. For now, I'm staying afloat. So I think just praise God for that. I'm even thinking it like, I even caught myself thinking like, how am I going to get my hair cut this month? How am I going to get like groceries this month? What am I going to do? But just give it to God. There's no point in worrying about it. There's no point in worrying about all of that stuff. What's it going to benefit me to just sit here and be like, oh, jeez, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do. No, I think just do what I'm supposed to do for the day, and then leave it up to God. And it says that birds of the air and the fish in the sea, they all are provided things to eat, and the Lord knows what I need, so I know He'll provide. So it's not easy. I'll give you that. It's certainly not easy, but I'm learning to just trust and let go of it, and not think on it too much, and just do what I'm supposed to do. Do what I have before me, the tasks I have before me for this day, and then let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. It's a challenge, but I'm trying. So, yeah. But it's hard. It's hard not to worry about it. Anyway. As for NoFap today, it was easy. Actually, the gig work definitely kept me off of my computer. And I like to do computer. I mean, my business depends on me being on the computer, but I'm also less distracted by things on the computer, just going around listening to music or listening to a podcast and having my phone out and just delivering groceries, and just being away from the computer. It helps. It certainly helps. And it's also nice because my back hurts, and getting up to like when I get the urge, getting up and that anxiety, getting up to do like shadow boxing. Thank goodness I'm like I didn't have to do that today, because like it's sore. It's super sore. But yeah, NoFap was easy because of that. Because today was pretty much a work day. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got to update on for you guys. But let's get your comments. Mike, never feel bad for starting your business for financial gain. And that's why we all engage in our businesses, professions, trades, farms, jobs, or whatever we do. Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that I feel bad about it. I wasn't trying to feel bad about it when I said that. I was more like, that was like the only thing. I didn't do it to serve God. I didn't think about what God would think of this, or how God could use it. I kind of just did it because of money. It didn't, and it wasn't. That was just true, and I don't feel bad about it because that's what a business is for: is to make money. If a business doesn't make money, it would be a non-profit organization, and I'm not interested in non-profit organization. And business is great. Business is great. The financial gain, if in a successful business, is fantastic. But a business that is focused on helping people is naturally just going to make money. And so it's not that I don't want to help people, but I went into, so what I do is, like, my business is pet supplies, and I know nothing about pets. I've never owned any. I have fish, and you can't really take fish out of their tank and pet them because they'll die, right? So all you could really do is look at fish, clean their tank, and then like feed them. That's all you can really do with fish, but that's all I had. And it didn't really give me a sense of they were my pet. I was more like their maintenance guy. That's kind of, and it was mostly my dad taking care of that stuff anyway. But I got into it because I was like, okay, people go do crazy things for their pets, and pets are like a huge niche in the business world. And making ads for it is super easy. Everybody likes pet videos, so let's do that because it's easy. And I didn't really go into it with the attitude of wanting to help people. I didn't really go in with an attitude of like, it was mostly just to make money. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. But now I'm kind of like, oh, in order to make money, I have to really try and help these people, with whatever they're struggling with. I have to understand their problems. I have to really try and understand what their problem is, and then how does my product fix that problem? And so, I think every man should try to do business, because what you're doing is essentially solving people's problems. And that's what men kind of do. That's what men are supposed to do, is solve people's problems. And so it's a great way of trying to identify a problem. It teaches you how to identify a problem. And then it teaches you how to position something to be the solution to that problem. And also how to monetize it. It's not a bad thing. But now it is like along with trying to make money, it is like a curiosity for me. It is like, how do I do this? How can I figure this out? How can I be the problem solver? How can I solve these people's problems? How can I get this to work? So it's not really like feeling bad about it. It's like trying to add on top of that, and it gets me excited. It gets me excited to continue doing it. Just be open to God's guidance, because He won't lead you wrong. That sometimes requires willingness to adjust on the fly as times change. Yeah, I agree with that. Fortunes were made in the buggy whip business, but only up to a point. Yeah, that's true. Technology changes everything. AI is making a huge boom. A lot of people are incorporating AI into their businesses. I personally do use AI to help me with product research, to help me with videos, to help me with marketing, all that stuff. You shouldn't rely on it like 100%, but you should basically get an idea of how AI works to maximize time and efficiency, right? So that's what AI as a tool should be used for in a business. But that's my personal point. I guess what my struggle is, what does God's guidance look like in my business, because it feels like I'm just going through the business and then being like, because this is what I did today, right before I was about to launch my ads. I was like, is this what God wants me to do? Like, I was asking that question, is is this part of the plan? Do I just test it and see if it's part of the plan? It's going to cost money. And so I just prayed. It's like, if this is, I'm just going to pray. I'm just going to pray. I'm going to be like, hey, if this is part of the plan, if this set of ads is going to be the one, or if there's still more for me to learn, then so be it. But I hope it goes well. I leave it in your capable hands. I've already clicked publish. I've already clicked publish on the ads. Now it's just up to you. Was my work adequate or not? If it was not, up to you. If it was not, back to the drawing board. But if it is adequate, please let it bear fruit. And it's also rough to know, like, do I move on? Do I switch to a different kind of business? Is pet supplies really my thing? I've been at it for 3 years. I don't know when to quit. Should I quit? I don't know. Is there another business venture, or maybe my acting will take off? I don't know. But let's just pray on it and leave it to God, really. Do what I have to do for the day. So, yeah. Is it scary? Yeah, is it scary? Of course it is. It's freaking terrifying. But, that's what I'm trying. Thanks to Butterfly Effect for the mention of Watchman Nee. I had not known of him, but his Wikipedia article is fascinating reading. He should be better known. Yeah, he's interesting. Very interesting. I read up on him a little bit. One of the martyrs in China when Christianity was being persecuted, and there's a lot of Christian martyrs in China, so a lot of them are really interesting. He's one of the few Protestant martyrs that I know of. One of my favorite Chinese martyrs, he's Catholic, is Saint Mark Ji Tianxiang. And Mark Ji Tianxiang was like an opium addict, and he was denied the Eucharist because of it, because his priest was like, I don't know if you're actually repentant about this, because you keep coming like here with this problem. I don't know if you're actually repentant about your addiction to opium, so you're not going to be able to take the Eucharist. And he was really distraught about it, but he continued going to church, he continued attending mass, and he continued to be a faithful Catholic until he was martyred for it, and that now he's venerated as a saint, and he's a saint of addictions. Actually, I ask him for some prayers now and then for whatever I'm addicted to. I prayed asking him to pray for me for like pornography addiction. But his story is encouraging for those people that are doing NoFap and have an addiction to pornography, So, yeah. Chinese martyrs are very fascinating. But anyway, there's a lot of martyrs that are very fascinating. But, yeah, he's cool. I would like to read up on what he knows, and all of his stuff. I'm just very careful about who I listen to, but I'm sure it's not too bad. Obviously there's going to be some stuff I disagree with Watchman Nee, but I want to go into it with discernment. I want to go when I read of a theologian, rather than what's in the Bible or like a saint. And even some saints, you got to really get the context of what the time period is with what they're writing about. But I want to be very careful about reading up on theologians and their writings. But that's me. That's just personal. But yeah, thanks for the comment, Mike. Butterfly effect. What you described about your time in adoration is a beautiful picture of the inner man. While your sponsor was using his intellect to study and flip pages, which absolutely has its place, your spirit bypassed all that mental noise completely. You were just present and resting in deep communion with Jesus. That is exactly how we step past the soul and tune in to spiritual intuition. The mind wants a roadmap and a rush of energy before it moves, but your spirit is contented just sitting in the quiet under the surface, knowing of God's presence. Yeah, I think it was just different ways to, it's almost like a new way to express, especially when you're in adoration, you're like, we believe that, the monstrous is there with the piece of the Eucharist inside, so we believe that Christ is in our presence. And so, with Christ in our presence, what do we do? What do we do? And a lot of, I see a lot of Catholics in there reading. Most of them are reading. And I think they do that because, obviously, Catholics are not as encouraged. They are still encouraged to read their Bible, but not as encouraged as Protestants are by their pastors to read their Bibles. So for them, it's kind of like they have a ton of prayers in their heads and they have a lot of litanies in their heads, but they don't have a lot of well, what's actually in the Bible. I want to explore that. I want to read that. And they want to be in that, and they want to be in the presence of Christ so that they can have that discernment, so that when they're reading, they have wisdom, they have the presence of God with them there while they're reading, and so they can feel, and not only that, it's like a very quiet moment. It's a great place to read. And that's, that's great. For me, because I grew up Protestant and I read my Bible many times and I know verses in the Bible really well, what I didn't have are those prayers that they grew up with, are those litanies that they grew up with. And so for me, adoration was a time to just understand I'm in the presence of God. Like Christ is here with me, with all of us here in adoration. I could read my Bible, which I've done many times, or I could do something that I'm not familiar with, which is all these prayers that Catholics have, and they're all extremely beautiful. All these prayers, all these litanies, I want to do that with Christ around. And so, you get different kinds of folks doing whatever they want to do with Christ in that moment of adoration, they'll do. And for me, it's just prayer. And for some other people, it's also prayer. Some people want to read in the presence of Christ. Some people want to discover more things and acquire knowledge in the presence of Christ. Some people want to read the Word of Christ with Christ present. So, yeah, it's in adoration. It's, however, it's what you bring, and what you bring to adoration is what you get out of adoration, because it's Christ. What do you want to bring to Christ? You want to bring prayer? Great. You want to bring the Word and have His presence there while you're reading it? Great. And what you put into adoration is what you get out. So that's how I see it. It makes me think of how Watchman Nee actually lived his life. He didn't just write these concepts as theory. He lived them out through 20 years in a Chinese communist prison camp for his faith. He was completely cut off from his books, his ministry, and was under intense, relentless pressure from the government to renounce his faith and place their authority above Jesus. He refused, choosing to stay in the labor camps for decades rather than compromise. Yeah, I read up on that. Really cool. When his time on Earth ended in 1972, the guards found a simple note he had hidden under his pillow. Christ is the Son of God who died for the redemption of sinners and resurrected after 3 days. This is the greatest truth in the universe. I die because of my belief in Christ. His cellmate later shared that night that right before they were separated, Nee's final words to him were, Tell them I never gave up my belief. I never gave up my trust. I have faith in Jesus Christ. When everything else was stripped away, his freedom, his work, his external strength, his soul had nothing left to lean on. He endured those decades not on emotional fire or human willpower, but on that exact same quiet, hidden life of the Spirit you felt when you were just sitting there praying. You got beautiful depth opening up in your walk right now, man. I'm grateful to be witnessing this journey with you. Yeah, that reminds me of Saint Therese of Lisieux or something like that. That's French. But Saint Therese of Lisieux is she wasn't persecuted like that. I will say she wasn't persecuted by her government, but she did live a very quiet life as a nun. A lot of saints have like mystic power. Like a lot of them were granted mystic powers. A lot of them were granted different kinds of like extraordinary gifts of the Spirit. But Saint Therese of Lisieux didn't have extraordinary gifts. She didn't have a healing touch. She couldn't read the minds and hearts of people. She couldn't levitate. She couldn't do any of those stuff. But she had a very quiet life. Very quiet life. But she celebrated God in the little things. And that's basically what she's known for. She celebrated God in the little things, in her little acts of joy. In the smallest act, she would praise God for, and give her life to God for it. And she was that way all the way up until her death, and I think she died naturally. But yeah, she did not have an interesting life. I'll say that. She did not have an interesting life. She had a very quiet life. People just knew, I would say like a lot of the nuns around her just knew her as like celebrating the quiet things, celebrating the little things. And she's been nicknamed the Little Flower because of that. And so there is something to be said for those people that aren't given so much, and yet in everything, in what little they have so much gratitude, and they're able to live a quiet existence without fanfare, and able to sit in nothingness or in stillness and understand that Christ is there, and that God is with them. And so, for me, it's a lot. It's not what I'm used to. I'll give you that. And I think in the culture, it's not what people are used to either, because this is a very loud culture. It's a very loud, very it's isolating, but you're still around people. At least that's what it is in California. I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but it's because of social media. It's like being isolated with people around you. The feeling of isolation, even though people are around you, because nobody wants to interact with each other. I mean, I went to to Atlanta. I went to Atlanta, Georgia, for a wedding, and people would randomly say hi to me on the street, and that was weird to me. That never happened. Like, someone would say hi to me, and I would look behind me thinking they were talking to someone else. So, yeah, it was weird. It's weird. But how did I get on this tangent? I don't remember. But yeah, it's such a different. It's different because also I don't know if I still am, but my life was pretty bombastic. For those of you who don't know, I'm a musical theater major. I spent most of my youth in middle school and high school pursuing theater, wanting to be on stage, wanting to act, wanting to sing, wanting to do all of these things. And I went to freaking college for it. I studied. I have a major. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in musical theater. I've lived a pretty bombastic life all the way up until like my mid-20s. And then, or mid to late 20s. And then now it's kind of like, now I'm a little bit more cloistered, a little bit more quiet, a little bit more introspective, a little bit more, more on the quiet grind. So it's still something I'm getting used to. Sometimes I can feel myself wanting to be on stage, be seen. And, old habits die hard. But I'm starting to get an appreciation of a more quiet life. Starting to get a more appreciation of something more hidden, especially spiritually, So, yeah. These last few years have been very, very educational. That's the word I'll use. Educational. So that's the fun of trying stuff. That's the fun of trying new stuff. But anyway, I kind of wish I could just stick to one thing sometimes. But I'm glad. I'm actually super grateful for what I'm learning, though. So I don't regret it. Anyway, thanks for the comment, Butterfly Effect. I appreciate it. As for everybody else, I haven't really gotten to NoFap stuff in a while. I kind of just been glossing over that. So, for everybody else watching, when did you start? When did you discover NoFap? I want you guys to answer that. When did you discover NoFap? Because I think I was like 20, somewhere around there, 20, when I discovered it for the first time. I knew it was I knew in my heart it was a problem. I didn't know in my mind it was a problem until like I was like 19 years old, and then I discovered NoFap when I was 20. So yeah, I'm curious when you discovered NoFap. So let me know in the comments below. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all for watching. I see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully it cools down, because I'm freaking sweating like crazy here, but hopefully it cools down tomorrow. I hope it's cold wherever you guys are. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Have a good night. Peace.